Hey guys, before this episode starts, just want to say that this is a very important episode to watch. We have a huge game-changing announcement at the end of the episode. If you don't want to listen to the whole thing, you can just skip to the end and listen to that. I'll pass it over to Josh.
That will be a timestamp, an hour and 45 minutes. Get to an hour and 45 minutes in 5 seconds, and you'll hear the start of the announcement.
No guarantee on that. Thank you. You can't really hear the music, so you don't have a good cue. But the music is playing right now, so you can intro if you want.
I think I heard it. I hear it a
Can you
little
hear it
bit.
a little bit?
It's like fading in and out. It fades in and out.
Go for it.
It's awful. Hi, and welcome to the We Should Talk More podcast. My name is Josh, and this is John.
Hello.
And we are two lifelong friends with not much in common, just trying to get a little bit closer. That's our tagline, guys. It's on our website.
Tell us about yourself.
I'm currently in the office and bedroom of the Joe Rogan. So my background's blurred. Me and John are not together today. We are in separate locations. He's somewhere else, down in
The North Pole.
Fiji Islands.
Oh.
What did you say?
I said the North Pole. We're getting some of that classic Discord interruption.
Yeah, so down at the Fiji Islands in the North Pole. We couldn't meet up today, unfortunately.
We'll get into it. This is
Go on, John, go on.
No, I said we'll get into it.
Okay, yes. We have some really awful cues, I guess, when we do this virtually.
Yeah, I've heard other podcasters talk about that, where like on Discord, like it makes it really awkward. Like the way it cuts voices in and out. Like if you're talking, if someone else starts talking, it'll like just like pop out out of nowhere. And
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
yeah,
That's right. But we'll see how we get through it. We've done it once before, but it also was a very long episode.
yeah.
So look
This
forward-
time I'm actually, so when we did it the last time, I wasn't actually recording on the mixer, but now I am, so I can actually see how long it's going. 'Cause I think when we did the other one, I like just didn't know.
So you keep us on track.
Yeah.
So John, if you want to tell the audience what we're talking about today.
Well, first I want to say I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. It's not Christmas for us yet, so I'm still dressed in my Christmas garb. I'm wearing a Wawa Christmas sweater, but hope you had a Merry Christmas. And you
haven't seen my new Christmas sweater yet.
Go get it.
You have it, right?
I haven't seen it. I'll talk about the episode if you want to run and get it.
Okay, yeah, you go and do that.
Okay. Oh my God, Josh is getting shirtless right back up. You're still in view. Today's episode, it's our season finale. It's the end of the year. This will be the last episode coming out of 2021. So we're kind of gonna reflect a bit on our lives, the things that we did, kind of the discoveries we've had. He covered his camera. We're gonna talk a little bit about the podcast, just like reflecting on our favorite episodes. Oh my gosh. And then we're going to talk about 2022, lay out what our bucket list is for that year, what we want to get done, talk about what we want to get done for the rest of our lives, what's going on in terms of life and work. And then finally, just reflect on the podcast again and lay out what the plans are for next year. Josh, you're back. And I'm honestly happy that you have a Christmas sweater, because I thought you were going to come back with the same one you've been wearing.
No, of course not, bro. I told you when we did the Christmas episode, I had a Christmas sweater for every single day. You just missed out on the other like 23, 24 days.
Right. Stand up.
Anyway, yeah, wait, hold on. It's very awkward with this hat now.
Is the hat new, or is that owned?
I'm sorry?
Did you own that hat already, or is that new too?
No, this is Athena's.
Perfect.
This was hers from when we did the Christmas in July.
You're right.
It's just been in my possession ever since. All right, you want to see this Christmas sweater?
Yes.
I'm terribly sorry about taking off my shirt. I didn't realize that I had nothing underneath my sweater.
I'm sure.
Okay, so read it off.
Let's talk about the holidays. I love it. It's so cute.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I love tacos and everything. We love tacos here at the We Should Talk More podcast, but it's also encouraging talking.
Tacos.
So, the We Should Talk More podcast.
Oh yes, that too. It's soft.
Yeah, it's pretty nice and soft.
Nice. I like
Found
my
out,
soft
man.
sweater. Maybe we should raise hands whenever someone wants to talk. Do you want to raise your hand?
No, I don't want to talk.
Okay. Well, I introed the podcast while you were getting dressed. I went through the different things we're going to talk about, but we can catch up a bit if you want and have our typical coffee hour.
Yeah, we should. Could you give me a quick briefing of what you talked about?
I don't want to. I don't want to go through.
I'm just playing.
Thank God.
Let's move on.
What are you drinking? Are you drinking anything?
Yes, I am. I got myself a cup here.
What's in it? Tea?
Simply tea.
Oh, beautiful.
And what you be drinking? Man? What are you?
A Cape May coffee stout.
Yep. Oh, it looks like it's supposed to be served hot.
I know, right? And actually, on the side, I was laughing because the Cape May beers, for those of you that have never had them, they say on the side what they pair best with, and they said that this pairs best with pancakes and coffee. But it's already a coffee stout. So am I going to drink this and coffee and pancakes? I don't know.
Well, I wonder how much coffee it actually has or caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people are not feeling too well now, so I checked my immunity for some tea.
That's beautiful. Have you been drinking tea more often lately, like instead of
Never.
coffee?
Today for the We Should Talk More podcast.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Yeah, I'm only just trying to present myself as healthy.
You want to come off as someone that drinks tea.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, because
And
people
it's
drink
late at
tea.
night.
Go for it.
We're entering the wee hours in the night.
No, I had nothing to say. I'm just laughing at the awkwardness of this thing. They must have changed it unless like we have like bad connection or something, because I feel like when we did it the other time we didn't have as much issue.
Well, the other time I definitely had a lot more. I had a much slower computer.
Oh, yeah, because I think that time we had a delay, because I remember when I was editing it, there were like huge gaps in our conversation. Like I would say something and then you would respond like almost like half a minute later.
And there was sometimes I would just pretend to freeze or something.
Yeah. But I feel like the responsiveness is pretty good on this, but maybe it's too good where it's like cutting each other off.
Well, let's get to it.
Yeah, we should
Tell
get
me
to it.
about the week. Not the content of the show. We gotta catch up.
Yeah.
2.5 minutes. Tell me about your week or
Cool.
your past month. It's been a while since I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, it hasn't been a great like last like 2 weeks. I don't want to get into too many personal things, but yeah, it hasn't been great. But I think it's good to acknowledge that, because I think a lot of what we're going to discuss in this episode is like highlighting the good things that have like happened in our year, which is crazy. The year's over. But yeah, it's good to acknowledge like people who listen to this. Like I don't want them to think like, oh, our lives are so perfect. Like I've had a pretty terrible like last couple of weeks, but I also think when you go through those things, you shouldn't forget about the good things as well. So it's like, I think it's kind of nice that we're doing this, because like it's been like therapeutic in a way, like actually having to like look back and be like, you know what, like even though things aren't going that well right now, like it's been a pretty good year, so I can't really complain. And also for people wondering why we're not recording together, I have there was like a COVID outbreak in my family the last week. So I just found out today that my sister tested positive. Her husband had it, he tested positive last week. And then I thought my mom had it, but she misspoke. She just went to get tested because she was with my sister yesterday. So she doesn't have it, but I don't know. We're still like scared, because she was in close contact with my sister the last couple of days, and my sister came over to my house to take a shower too. So yeah, it's the whole thing.
It's a developer. Yeah, just watch out on John's mom's Facebook page. You'll find out there.
All the updates are there. But how was your last? I don't remember the last time I saw you. I think the last time I saw you was when we recorded
the Christmas episode and we got fucked up.
Yeah.
And then after that, so I'll tell you the minute by minute since then. I knocked out and I slept for almost the rest of the day.
Yeah, that was a rough day, because I did end up getting a haircut after that, but I drove home and my dad picked me up to get a haircut. But I remember when I sat down to get a haircut, as soon as I sat down, I'm like, I'm pretty drunk right now. Like I'm still drunk, and this was like 40 minutes later.
I was so drunk when I woke up, bro. I woke up like 5 hours later.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a lot. If you haven't seen that episode, guys, that I finished editing it this week. It's one of my favorite episodes. It's very funny. It's very funny.
Oh, I have to listen to it.
Yeah.
Then. My God.
There's singing, there's like it's a good episode.
Man. Okay. So yeah, that happened immediately after. There's been a lot that has happened. I think it's been a little slower though because a lot of us haven't really been together. As John has mentioned, there's been COVID outbreaks all over the place. Fortunately, none of my family has gotten it. I haven't come into contact with anyone who has. So, but I've been getting messages from everyone saying, "Oh yeah, we can't meet up because
Yeah.
of so and so. Let's not go out to the clubs anymore. Let's not go to the bars because all this shit's happening." I was about to go to Hoboken, go out to get some drinks in Hoboken on Friday night. We changed plans last minute because of everything going on. Speaking of which, a friend of mine, friend of the show, Dahlia, was telling me she was listening to our episode with the two guests we had on the show, the
20 and
co-hosts
Trying?
of the Trying. And she hears my question about the what would you do if somebody was to take a bite out of your ice cream? I stole that straight from one of her dates. I think I stole two questions straight from her date. Her dates.
These are dates that
One was,
she's gone on, and she just like told you that happened.
oh yeah, and how like she got the ick. She got the ick.
Oh, okay, good.
If you don't know what the ick is, go listen to that episode.
Gotta listen to the episode.
And the other question I think was, what would you do if someone decided to like just grab your hand randomly in a date? So yeah. So I caught up with her a little bit, so that was fun. And she shared that with me. So people are listening. People are listening. That's always great to hear when you have a conversation with somebody and like they call out something specific about something you said on the
Yeah.
episode, like your mom seeing your tattoo.
Yeah, I was well. What was coming to my mind was like Alex. I feel like Alex sometimes texts me stuff like when he's listening to the episode, whenever we mention him or whatever.
Okay.
Hopefully, he texts me now when he hears this.
Hopefully, I sure hope so. Another thing is I've been reading more because we're gonna talk about, we've both missed our goal of 2021 reading a book. For me specifically, it got to the point of me picking up a book that I just struggled to get through, but I finally closed the last page of it this past week.
Nice.
So I feel very accomplished.
That's awesome.
And I was gonna mention something about it too, because you were saying something at the end about we often are only talking about very good things in our life, and in our life we can feel very down a lot. And it's good to acknowledge that we do have shitty moments, but reflecting in 2021, you see a lot of the highlights. And so I think that's good for us to be practicing that now, because we're going to be forcing ourselves to like really look back, and you see the trend upwards.
Yeah.
But like you have your remembering self, and this is what part of the book is talking about. You have your remembering self and your experiencing self. Your experiencing self will enjoy, but when you look back, you only look at the peak joy in the end part of that memory. And if that end is not that great, then you will remember something as than it actually was. So I guess like that's to say, even though like right now, one of the most, there could be a lot.
You cut out a lot.
Like this trend. Oh shit. Well, look, I said something knowledgeable. You guys can just put the words together.
Give us the name of the book so they can figure it out.
Thinking Fast and Slow.
Thinking Fast and Slow.
By Daniel Kahneman.
Awesome. Yeah, I finished reading Silver Linings Playbook. I'm happy that I was able to at least finish reading a book as well.
There we go.
That was a good book. I'm gonna start the book that you got me. I think it was called Normal People. I think
you got started with it.
No, but that's like the next book I'm probably gonna start reading it tomorrow. I have a funny story because I thought today was my last day of work. So like I have all these plans tomorrow. Like I'm gonna see a movie. I'm like making appointments and stuff, but actually tomorrow's my last day of work. But I did like today, thinking that today was my last day of work. I got everything done. Like I don't have anything left to do tomorrow, and I don't have any meetings tomorrow, so I feel comfortable taking tomorrow off. Though I'm gonna be like on my phone, but yeah, I know I am putting it into the podcast. I hope it doesn't get listened to by a boss, but maybe I'll cut this out.
Maybe one of your YouTube colleagues.
Yeah, I have many colleagues at YouTube that I get notifications for on LinkedIn. But yeah, I do plan on reading that. If not tomorrow, I'll start it this week. Now that I have like nothing else to do, so I'm excited.
That's great. Yeah, let me know how you like it, and once you finish it out, I actually am interested in reading it myself. So yeah, we'll talk about it. All right, so I think we spent more than 5 minutes, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're at 17 minutes.
17 minutes total. Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we jump into it? So we'll get started in 2021 and some accomplishments perhaps that we have had. And I'll let you kick it off.
I at first it was kind of hard for me to fill stuff out. I'm a very negative thinking person, but I referenced the list of like 10 things that I wrote out that I was planning. So that made it a lot easier. So like I'm kind of also seeing more of the benefits of like writing out like goals like that, because then it's like you can easily just look back on that at the end of the year. The biggest thing for me, I think, was I finally transitioned to the studios team. That was something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm very like happy that I was able to do that and actually get promoted in that role. One of the biggest things that I'm really proud of too is traveling. I set the goal of going to 3 states. I ended up going to 5, technically 6, but I don't count Colorado because I just drove through it. But I'm really happy like with the amount of traveling we did. I think a lot of the trips we went together on were extremely fun. Definitely got to like explore more and did things that I didn't think I would ever do, or like a lot of those hikes, like going to places I never really thought of going to. Seeing Wisconsin, like I would have never gone there for any other reason. So it was a really great trip. And I also just noted like the trip to Utah, going on a trip by myself is also something I never thought I would do. And I definitely learned a lot of stuff, and it's something that I might want to try to do again, if maybe not for as long as the time as I went, but like I gained more appreciation of like that sort of not waiting for other people, and just like if I want to do something, just like go ahead and do it.
You say not as long, is that because it wouldn't be as enjoyable without somebody?
Yeah, I think that was one of the big things that I felt like that, like and I mentioned it in the episode, but it's like the memories you have are more enjoyable when there's other people to share them with. So it's like I have these memories of Utah, but they're just mine. And there's only so much I can talk to people about it before they get annoyed. So I'm not gonna just like talk about it. But I added reading here. Like you mentioned, we both failed in our goal for wanting to read a lot more and read at least a book every month. I still view it as an accomplishment, just the fact that I pushed myself a little bit to get back into it. I think looking at like 2020 and even 2019, I would not read for pleasure at all. It was mostly always for school, and then if I had to read like something for work, but like I never really would just like read for my own enjoyment. So I'm happy I kind of broke back into that, and I'm excited to kind of further that and maybe push again for that, like a book a month. I have a lot of books that people gave me for my birthday, so that's like a nice, I feel like it's an encouraging step. So like I have the book you gave me and someone else gave me a book. So that's really nice. One of the big things I put here too was selling my camera. That was the goal I had at the start of this year. I had an older camera that I wanted to sell to invest into like a more expensive camera and buy more expensive lenses. I did that at the start of the year, and it was like kind of a scary venture because I never like sold anything that expensive like online. So like having to learn to like navigate that space and dealing with like scammers on eBay. But I was able to do that, and I invested in a much more expensive but better camera. And with that too, it's even something I didn't really think about, but like this year in terms of like photography, which isn't like my main thing, but like I've done the most like photo shoots this year than like any year before. So I see that as definitely a good goal, and like it's something that is actually like making me money like on the side. So it's like it's something to consider, like to definitely want to continue that and push that. I have dating here. I think we both kind of spoken about it a lot on this podcast, but like this year we've sort of had like a renaissance in dating, or at least like I think we kind of better understood like what it is that we want and took new approaches and like explored new things. And we both saw like varying forms of success. So I'm happy I was able to like put myself out there and actually like find success in doing different things and like improving while reflecting on a lot of my shortcomings. So that's been great. Becoming rated 1,000 in chess. That was on my list of things to do, and I'm actually happy I did it. And I added here beating Josh and beating my dad, because those were honestly personal goals of mine, were to be able to feel like I could compete against like Josh or my dad, because like both of them were people that would just absolutely destroy me before. And I have a very beautiful memory of the place that we went to in Chicago where it was like that theater bar, and we played chess there like very briefly after drinking like some pretty strong drinks. So that was fun. And I'm happy that. Go ahead.
That's where it was you beat me.
Yeah, I think we were drunk. I took advantage of you. But yeah, I mean, I do consider that like a good achievement, because like it was like a personal thing that I was never really thought I would be interested in chess, but like I actually like pushed myself to learn, and looking forward to next year. It's something I want to like continue. I've going to therapy. That's something I never thought I would do, and I'm really happy that I did it. And there's still like, I think, a lot that I'm hoping to get out of it that I haven't got out yet, but I think making the step to actually do it is something I've been meaning to do for like years. So like I'm happy that I actually like did that, and being more open about it with like people as well is like something that I've been starting to do, which I think is like a healthy thing as well. And the last thing here is starting the podcast. We were literally talking about this around this time last year. We actually did it. We didn't really hold ourselves back too much. I mean, obviously there was like a couple months earlier in the year that we weren't doing anything for it. But I think as soon as we started talking about wanting to do it, it was very shortly after that it just like started, and like we didn't get like held up in like little things of like what should it really be about, like where do we want to take it. We just went with it, and I'm really happy that we did, and that's
Awesome.
that's everything.
Yeah, that makes 2021 sound so much better than like I was feeling.
Yeah, I think I really like that we did this, because yeah, like you said, like when you're just looking at it from your current position, you start to think like, oh, like this year has been so shitty, like it's whatever. But like actually listing out things, you're like, a lot happened this year. Like it's good to look on the good things for sure.
And I'm very excited because we did, for the second half of this, write it down a bucket list.
Yeah.
And you started with talking about your bucket list for 2021 rather. That now I actually have myself. I didn't have for this year. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what comes out of it going into next year when we close out the year. But yeah, I guess closing off with what you ended with, starting with what you ended with, the podcast. That is a huge one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Because we're, to your point, we didn't get started with that until around April when we really started getting into conversations. That's as soon as we wrapped up a book, and we'll talk about the book in a little bit. We came up with a name, and I think we just moved it forward from there. It was in Arizona, and then we came back, and in May we like recorded our first episode.
Mm-hmm.
We got all the equipment, everything together, and here we are. So that was very exciting to see all the pieces finally come together with that one, and here we are recording another episode to close out the year. So that was one of the biggest accomplishments, I think, for this year. You mentioned talking about last year and what you started with and thinking about the year. I didn't write down a list, but I do remember one thing. No, I put on my Instagram 3 things that I wanted. I don't know if you can remember.
I don't.
But I just did it as a way to ask for recommendations from people who follow me, and hopefully like use that as motivation to get me to do something about it. One thing was to focus more. So to help with focusing, how would you build the habit of meditating? I didn't really get much great advice there. I kind of didn't expect that too much, but that is one that I actually started doing a lot more than probably the other goals. We talked about meditation on this podcast. Shortly after that, I almost completely 100% fell off of meditation. I went like months without meditating at all. But I've recently, as we're going into a new year, you start reflecting again. You start thinking about some good habits you may have had and what good habits you want to kind of continue.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked that back up. But I feel very accomplished that I was able to make it into a habit and was actually able to do a lot more with it and to seek some of the like benefits that can come from meditating. Another one was skincare. I never did anything for my skin. John still talks about he uses a bar soap for his skincare routine. And so I posted on my story, but I have no knowledge about it. It requires a lot of research in order to decide like what should you. So immediately a good friend of mine messages me and we talk about it for a little bit, and she gives me like a whole list of things that I should get, and just been using that throughout the year, and I've just been restocking. I should probably check in with her and see like, does she recommend continuing down the same, like using the same stuff, the same products I've been using, how the results have been. I think my skin's better than it may have been in the beginning of the year. I haven't really had many breakouts. I have stopped having breakouts for a while anyway, but I haven't really had skin issues. My beard has grown out a lot more, so I feel like that's a great accomplishment. You look at me from 2020 to 2021, or in the end of 2021, my beard wasn't as fully grown out, and I haven't really done anything for it rather than just let it grow. So I don't think that's really related to skincare. And the third one that I mentioned, and this has been an ongoing one of wanting to improve, is cooking. And I did absolutely nothing this year to cook more. There's that. We'll see. I think I put something a little bit more specific for my 2022 goals when it comes to cooking. So we'll get into that once we look forward. And then we can see how that actually comes to fruition. Going into 2021, I quit a job. We talked about it on the podcast. Quit a job with no job lined up and with the ambition to get into the data field. That was a lot harder than I expected. I did already get my certification, so I had some credentials to support myself in a lot of projects that I worked on. Along with that, just some past work experience that could be able to be used to look into a new career. Ultimately, it took me 4 months of being unemployed before I was finally able to break into the field, but I'm so grateful that I quit. I'm so grateful that I made that decision to quit, and despite everyone who was telling me not to, and being able to get into the field that I was setting the goal to get into. Not only that, I was able to switch. It's not a great thing to like switch companies so quick, but I was able to switch companies and like significantly increase my salary. I went from being fired to taking on a job that was a lower salary than my original job to increasing from my original salary and then increasing again. So bringing my career trajectory up in the back to the direction that I wanted to keep it going in. So that was a huge accomplishment for me, and life has been a lot better with that. And we both, you mentioned it, started really thinking about dating a lot more. 2020, all of 2020, I didn't see a single soul that was like a romantic prospect. Right. Or anything that would be like in the space of dating. So we both, I think at that time were I wouldn't say in a slope of like being in a bad state, but when it comes to dating, we were both not really making any progress in that space. So I think as we started with this podcast and having the conversations about it, reflecting on our dating experience and what we have learned as an outcome of those experiences, it has helped shape both of us a lot.
Yeah.
So
I think even like in our personal conversations about it, like actually contextualizing and like putting our experiences down and like being able to like look at it and understand like where we were and where we are, it's really helped a lot. And I told Josh about it, but like I had a conversation about dating in therapy, and I just listed like I went through the whole history, and she's like, this is so impressive because I've had so many people who they really struggle to like pull insights like from their lives, or like even just like trying to remember things, but like you just so quickly like pulled it all. I'm like, oh, I did this with my friend before, and I had to like explain to her, but it's like what we're doing is in a form like therapy, like that kind of like reflection and like attempting to understand things from like a little bit away. So like it's definitely been really beneficial.
yeah, and I love to hear that. The impacts I guess we can have coming out of this podcast has been great for both of us when we reflected 2021 when it comes to dating, but then also just like to contextualize our life. This is forcing us to contextualize our life. I have never done like an actual annual review of what has happened and then trying to plan for the next year. This is something I think everyone should be doing.
Yeah.
Everyone should try to take the time to sit down and ask themselves these questions. Like, what did you accomplish in this past year? What did you discover this past year? Dive a little deeper into some areas of interest. Like we're going to talk about the podcast a little bit. And then going into 2021, what do you want to accomplish? And then you use that as a measure. I'm very glad that we have this opportunity. And I only have this as John keeping me accountable so we can do this. With the reading, like you said, we both failed to meet it. But similar to you, I've read more books than I did the past year.
Yeah.
And so while it's still a failure, it's still progress in the right direction. And we'll see how 2022 comes out.
Yeah. I think that's like an important thing that we can like give off to people too. Is like when you're listing out things that you view as an accomplishment, even just small steps. Like I think we're looking at things in a very positive lens, which is important. We're looking for the silver linings, if you will. But it is important because like you can't disregard like work towards something, even though you may not have gotten what you wanted out of it. Like we still pushed for something, and that's noteworthy.
All right, you want to jump into whatever you have next? I think I wrote down discoveries.
Yeah. I copied yours completely.
Okay, cool.
So I have discoveries.
You took a different approach for it too, so we'll have, I guess, like different conversations when we hear each of our sides.
For me, I wrote about like what I discovered about myself. I'm glad that I was able to rediscover my love for doing creative things outside of filmmaking. So like we've talked a lot about like painting and other creative pursuits on this podcast, but like even just getting back into like writing is something that I'm happy I've been able to do a little bit of this year. Especially through work, I've been able to do a little bit of like creative writing now, which has been nice. But also photography, touching back on like doing more photo shoots, like doing it for other people. It's like, it's kind of forcing me to do it, but getting back into it and like rediscovering that sort of like creative eye is like a good thing. And I'm happy that I kind of like was able to do that. We talked about this already, but like just the contextualization of like the dating history is a big thing that we both like kind of were able to discover this year and learn a lot more about ourselves. I added career here because I think I'm glad, especially towards the end of this year, I feel like I've created a bit more of a vision of where I want to be, and things seem a lot more clearer than they have been before. So I can really, I feel like I have like a clear set of like what I want to like push towards and like where I want to go now that I'm in a more creative department. So that's really exciting, and it gives me a lot to look forward to, I think, next year as I continue to like push for more things. A big thing I think I've discovered this year is just like to not settle, even though you might be in a place that's comfortable. You don't need to like settle for that just because it's comfortable. Like you should still continue to like be hungry. And the last thing I have here is social anxiety. I don't think it's really something that I never knew about, but like actually like understanding like that feeling that I experience, and through therapy getting, I guess, being able to like realize how a lot of those thought patterns are kind of wrong, and like you end up like believing things that aren't true. So like I guess really understanding, having that and understanding like what I can do to try to avoid those feelings is something that I'm happy that I've been able to do. I don't want to say it's something that I've like completely overcome, but I'm glad that I've like made that step of like acknowledging that that's something that I have and like that I want to work on.
I mean, you took that big step of, after all these years of always thinking about actually taking therapy. So these are always great to actually think about. So in my discoveries, I broke it up into just actual things that, in terms of content and things I use day to day. And I think this is cool because you don't realize sometimes how things you own or things you have read in a year may have impacted your life. To first get up into books and stuff. So stuff as in stuff that I just own now in my own, or that I now leverage day to day. So books, I started with.
We should acknowledge that the microphone changed.
What's that?
No, just like acknowledge to the people that the.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so if the audio's sounding a little strange right now, I had to switch on my microphone. We're having issues here. It's what happens when you film a podcast. It's inevitable. So I'll move on to the second book, but that first book, I think, really made that impact of me reflecting on who has shaped my life a lot more, and acknowledge things that I should be a little bit more grateful for, but also realize the vices that may have been passed on to me and how I can work on those vices moving forward. Show Your Work, huge one from me and John. Show Your Work by Austin Kleon is one that really inspired us to do this podcast in the first place. Is really to show you that you don't have to let your thoughts or your mind, what other people think, stop you from just producing and showcasing what you currently are working on. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be an end result. It doesn't have to be a product. You can showcase your process. And so, like John mentioned, when we were planning out this podcast, we didn't know exactly what we were going to talk about. We had a faint idea. We came up with a name, but that was enough for us to be able to say, okay, let's sit down and actually start speaking into a microphone. And if we didn't take that step, we wouldn't be here right now speaking. We'd probably still be discussing what we wish to do for 2022. So show your work is the reason why you're listening to us right now. If you want to feel a little bit more inspired to pick up a new hobby that you want to do for next year, read Show Your Work. You can read it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I gave Mustafa, who isn't a big reader, another book by Austin Kleon, same size. It's called Still Like an Artist. What is it called?
Yeah.
Still Like an Artist.
That's it.
He read it during the airplane ride. It's quick. You can do it. And then I closed off here with Thinking Fast and Slow. I've read more than that's just these 3 books, but these were some of my favorites. Thinking Fast and Slow is this whole book about how we think, how we process and make our judgments and decisions day to day. And you don't realize so often how quick you are to use your intuition or some biases that you might have to judge a situation or make a decision on a situation. And to just be a little bit more aware of it and also having the language to be able to describe it, I think is just very effective for like having that knowledge in your life. Now, it's not going to stop you from continuing to have biases or shortcuts to how you make your judgments, but it at least allows you to be aware when you reflect back on what you have done, and maybe you can stop yourself in a situation. So great read. It is a difficult one, so if you haven't been reading much and you want to pick up a book, I wouldn't recommend picking up Thinking Fast and Slow. I would recommend picking up one of the first 2. Those are very quick reads. Now, getting into some stuff that I've discovered. I've passed this one on to John after I purchased it. The MX Master 3 mouse. I'm showing it on the screen right now. He's about to show his. We have exactly the same mouse. It is such a game changer.
It's amazing.
Using a computer. This mouse has an infinity wheel. You can swap between windows you have open on your computer by using your thumb. You can scroll horizontally. You can go back to the previous page by pressing one of the buttons on this mouse. You can go forward to a page that you went back on already. And John is just showing you exactly how you can do that.
It's like when you're on an airplane, you're the one that's describing the exits, and I'm like showing them.
He's doing the actual demo while I'm talking through it. This next one I'll attribute to my roommate because I guess when I moved in and I was doing my laundry, he may have commented once about what clothes I put together in my wash or what settings I used. And I'm like, oh, well, I never really thought about it. I just throw out my clothes and I'll put on the standard cotton wash, standard default settings and leave it at that. He's like, oh no, like check out my closet. He shows me his closet. He's like, this is something I bought like 3 years ago or 5 years ago, and it looks like it's still in perfectly new condition. And that's because of how I wash my clothes. It's important of how you wash your clothes, and the quality of your clothes will stay better the better that you wash it. Each of these items have their own like way to wash, and it's recommended that you wash it that way so you can actually try to maintain that quality. You can take shortcuts, sure, and take your shortcuts when you need to, depending on like what you're washing. Like if it's boxers or socks, don't stress it, throw it in and put on some hot wash. But if it's something that you care about and you want to keep it good and continue to wear long term, think about how you wash it. So it made me a lot more mindful of how I actually wash my clothes and dry my clothes. And so I've discovered new ways of doing that and doing that than I used to in the past. Another thing, I guess, also attributed to my roommate. God damn, Piyush, you've changed
Why
my
don't
life.
you just kiss him already?
I have to talk to you about this. What's that?
You should kiss him already.
Maybe on the podcast I can call him over. He might be in his room. I'm not even sure. Better barber. So he introduced me to one of his barbers. I started going to him, and this barber like gave me a great fade. He took care of me well. And I haven't had a barber who cut my hair that well before. I stopped going to him just out of trying out another barber and just preferences, and it worked out that way. But like I think I got better at asking for what I want for, but also discovering knowing who to look for when going for a barber. So I'm actually very satisfied now with the quality of haircuts I get, more than I ever have been. And the last one, I guess I haven't really this, or it isn't really a thing that I acquired a skill of, but it is something I discovered is painting. And me and John had an episode dedicated to it. I first did it this year again after years since ever painting on a first date with somebody I met off of Tinder. And I haven't done it I haven't done it since that podcast, but I think it was just nice to discover the joy of sitting down and painting on a canvas.
Yeah, that's funny because I haven't done a lot of painting recently, but we designed our own Christmas sweaters. I think I mentioned it on last episode, and I bought these like letters that you had to paint, and like I came downstairs with like a whole like tray of different acrylic paints and like brushes, and my parents are like, when did you buy this? And I'm like, I've had it for so long, I just don't like, I don't take it out as much, I guess. But yeah,
that's funny because today Piyush was asking about any paint that we have. He's like, oh, could you check the drawer real quick? I think I have 3 different colors in the drawer. I'm like, oh bro, I have a whole set of acrylic paint if you need.
Yeah.
So if you have some 3 colors, that's great. But I probably have those colors and more. So I'll just bring that out for when you come back. So yeah.
I like that you brought that one up though, because it is like a thing that we definitely had a lot of fun when we were doing it and like discussing it, and like it kind of fell off. So like it's something I would want to like continue doing in some way next year, or just like be cognizant of like if I ever feel like doing it, I should do it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so moving on to the next one. I know you wrote about the podcast and we talked about it too. So would you want to like throw out any highlights here?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I think the thing I'll just mention is like, man, this podcast, it's been like a roller coaster, like with the different stuff that we've talked about. I've really had a lot of fun, like in the recent episodes where like we've both shared different like films, and like we're just like analyzing them and like sharing stuff that each of us enjoy, like going back and forth. Helped me realize that that's something that like I actually like talking about. But yeah, I mean we touched on like the other stuff with dating and how that's helped, so I won't belabor that point. I don't know if you had anything you want to add. Actually the highlight for me of all these episodes though was like the 2 guest episodes that we had. That was really fun, and I like that we actually like went out there and did that, one with a friend, but also with like complete strangers that we just like got on. So that was definitely fun.
Yeah, I wish we did more of that. But definitely something to continue to consider. So yeah, I think that wraps up 2021.
Yeah,
the first half of this episode, we're already
we're at an hour.
Yeah, so about halfway through, huh?
Yeah.
No, we'll have to speed through 2022, but like 2022 hasn't happened yet, so yeah. I guess we can do that.
So I guess we can go through. We both made bucket lists, as Josh mentioned, and I think I mentioned it in an earlier episode. Like I had made a list at the start of this year, and it's like what I wanted to get accomplished this year. So I like that you added that here, because like it gave me the chance to do it early, because like I wasn't really thinking of making another one. It just wasn't like on top of mind. So some of these are bringing back some of the old ones, some of them are new. My first thing is to continue the traveling. I have it set now to visit 5 newer states. Last year was 3, but since I was able to do 5 this year, I think that's a good minimum to try to hit again, at least do like another 5. I recently bought a map of the United States with like the national parks like highlighted with pins. So like I'm going to start dropping pins on like where I've been and leave pins for like where I want to go. So it's kind of cool like planning that out. I have here to go to Hawaii or Europe. That's like a huge goal for me next year. I think one or the other. I'm going to go to one or the other. That's like a big goal for me. And I have a list right now of like states that I want to go to. I know a big one for me and Josh, so we definitely want to do a California trip. I'm trying to plan out trips where I can like sort of like the Wisconsin one where we like double dipped, like we did like Illinois and then into Wisconsin. So like I want to see what makes sense like with 2 states that I like. So yeah, it's exciting planning that. My number 2 is to explore performing. It's something I mentioned to Josh before, I think of like thinking about doing stuff like stand up or things like that. But I think also like joining some type of like improv group or doing like a theater in any way. Like it's always something that I think in the back of my head I've wanted to do. I've just been too afraid to do it. So I think it would be a great step to sort of like force myself into that in some way, because I feel like I get very comfortable being the guy like behind the camera, but I like being funny. I like to entertain, so I think it would be cool to like learn more or like do it more in practice where I feel more comfortable doing it maybe.
Now it's out there in the ether.
Yeah, it's out there.
It's out there. So next thing we have to hear about, I'm gonna ask you, How's that going?
Yeah. What did I? Oh, so read books monthly. That's like continuing the same thing. Want to really try to take that more seriously though. I think it also comes into like better managing my time and like seeing maybe like instead of reading so late, I could try to read in the morning instead and like trying to actually like dedicate time to that instead of just like reading whenever I feel like it, which is kind of how I've been approaching it. And then I have Figure Out Future of AlzateFilms. That was the same thing as last year. I do feel like, to give credit, I have done a lot more thinking about it this year than I have before. Like we actually have a website made. I've like had somebody make like a design for merch. So like there was motion, but I think I do want to like put more time into that. And like, I really like the idea of like making like merchandise and stuff. So like that's something that I want to explore. Even if it's not like branded to me, if it's just like making like clothes that people would find interesting to buy. Taking care of myself. I always don't pay attention to myself enough, I think, in terms of like mental health and physical health. So I definitely want to like focus on that and maybe rethink about how I'm approaching my lifestyle. I have joined a chess competition. That's a big goal for me. I might already be signing up for one. There's a Union County like chess tournament in January that I've been thinking about joining. There'll be updates on that maybe. I'm a little too scared. It's just the only thing I don't like is that it's virtual, so like it's not an in-person game, and I really want to play an in-person game. Even though I feel like it'll be harder, I want to like experience that. So I'll have to find like an in-person tournament. But also I think with that, just like taking chess a little more seriously too, as like a side hobby. Like I think I mentioned to you, like wanting to like study it more, like buy books about it. So that's something I'm interested in doing. 7, return to making short films. I mentioned to Josh before about The Haunting of NJ having its 5-year anniversary coming up next October. So definitely want to do something special for that maybe. Let me take a sip of water, so entertain them, Josh. Entertain.
That's a long ass.
I was like about to start coughing. I need to entertain, bro.
That fucking water. Let's go.
I had a dry throat, bro.
Did you?
Number 8.
Starting to drink more.
Yeah.
I am. You're starting off 2022 off well. You're taking care of yourself.
I mean, this is like what I was mentioning before, like never drinking water on the podcast and then wondering why I can't speak.
Exactly. This is it. This is what you need.
It's a good step. So I have for my 8th thing, investing in real estate in some way. I think I mentioned it before. Now that I have like money saved up, it's like conversations I've been having with my dad. Like either like getting a condo. I think I meant to put apartment. I put apartment building. I don't want to build an apartment. Oh, actually, no. It was to. So my dad has been like talking to me about like us buying an apartment building. To like own it and then like have people like
rent it off.
Yeah. Because my dad is also getting close to retiring, so he's also thinking a lot about like investing the money that he's gonna have. So it's been conversation that we've had, and also in flipping houses. So we've had a lot of work done in our house. So we've become very familiarized with like contractors that have been doing all that work. So like that's another thing that we're like considering, because if you buy a house that's cheap and then have a contractor like fix it up, if it's like a shitty house that you buy for cheap and have a contractor fix it up, and then you can sell it for more. So it's like a way to like generate money that way through real estate. So yeah, it's like different things like flowing through our mind, but it's like the same idea of like having been able to save money and now trying to think about like what I can actually like invest it in. So that's like a big thing I want to do next year. Continuing education, I have a good update on that because I added that before I actually thought about it. I signed up for a film class starting next year. It's being run by Casey Neistat, which I'm not sure if you know him. He's a famous YouTube vlogger. He's doing a film class on Monthly, which is like a education service thing. I never heard about it until he made a video about it, but he has like a film course that's coming out, and I think it's a month-long course, but through it, I think you produce 2 short films. So that'll be something exciting that I'll end up doing like early in January, just through the class. So that's kind of what I was talking to you about, like wanting to go to school for film to like not only meet people and like make connections with people actually like interested in that, but also like force myself into creating like and learning in that way. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for that. The last thing I have here, which is just riffing on on a goal that I saw Josh put in his thing, that I want to grow a bushy mustache. This mustache is maybe like 3
Did
weeks
you let
old.
your mustache grow out intentionally for this episode?
As soon as you're planning this,
recognize
this
that.
is like 3 months, but I'm trying to invest in like some oil that I can add, and also like grooming it with like they have like wax that people use to like just push your hairs down, because I'm starting to have those hairs that like pop up and like go all over the place. So this time next year, if I don't have a bushy mustache, that's a big failure.
Oh, I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
Though this is a joke one, an actual one that I'll add as like a 10th thing is like just throwing myself into more uncomfortable situations. Something that I'm doing through therapy is like making a list of things that give me anxiety and like ranking them from like worst to least. So like least being like saying I'm uncomfortable with something, and then like worst being like walking up to a stranger and like asking for their phone number. So actually like committing to that list and like slowly like working through it and like doing that is a goal for me. I think some of these things like touch on that, but like just in general, like doing that is a big goal for next year.
Okay, awesome. Glad to hear that.
I'll toss it over to you.
Yeah, so I'll go through my 2022 goals, and then we'll jump into what we're looking at beyond 2022 as well. We've looked ahead a bit more too. So to start off, my first goal that I wrote here was dedicate each month to learning a new skill. I wish I remembered this one, that I wrote this down, so I could have at least start like writing down a list of skills I want to develop. Maybe we can consider December is the month of salsa dancing. I signed up for a class in December for salsa dancing. So you know what? By the time of the end of next year, I'm gonna have 13 new skills. Would you look at that? But being that we're having this conversation now, immediately after this, I think I'm gonna start writing down like a discrete list of each month. This is what I'm gonna work on, and then use that as a measure. Number 2 is learn to cook. And so I said learn to cook last year, but here I try to be a little bit more specific, just so I can actually know what to focus on and like hopefully get a takeaway out of this. But using produce, meat, and seasonings more than I have used, because I am using seasonings more than I probably was last year, but I hardly ever buy meat. And I hardly ever buy produce. I buy deli meat and I throw that into some stuff I might cook. I use eggs a lot. Those are probably the 2 biggest items that I use in my cooking repertoire, which is very minimum. So to leverage some more meats and more produce would be good. I actually, this past month, after watching a video of a YouTuber that I sent John, his name is Joshua, maybe something with an F or W as his last name. He mentioned in one of his videos, a good thing that you can always do at the beginning of each month is roast broccoli and carrots. And you can add that into a lot of things that you cook. So if you have that, you just store it in your fridge, and as you cook things, just toss it as a side piece for your meal, or toss it into your meal. So you're making pasta. You can put in some broccoli into your pasta. You have that prepared already. Little side things like that might just be something good, just so I can make my food or my cooking healthier and more fulfilling than it currently is. It's usually just one small thing that I quickly put together. One of John's goals is to get into real estate. Same here. Buy my first property. I've had discussions with my roommate at like surface level conversations about buying property, but this is one that, being that I'm finally getting into a more stable income, building my wealth, definitely want to get this started sooner than later, so I can think about not necessarily buying a property for me to live on, but a property that could be a source of income. So a rental property that I can rent out to somebody. And with that, maybe something that I could use that income to buy a new property, or take that property and maybe not flip it, because I do think flipping will require a larger capital. But if buy something cheaper and sell it at a better price, that may or may not be as profitable. But if you think about what you can buy next with it too, so there's that. Then number 4 is doing deep tissue massages. I totally forgot that I added that. That has to be one of the skills then for a month. I really had to practice it. So I got a massage gun sometime last month and I was very displeased with it. So I returned it. It was $100. And I'm hearing people telling me that they have like $40 massage guns and they're very pleased with it. I tried one out from Josh Sloves. I compared my gun to his. His was better. And I think his was cheaper too. Anyway, so that
I was shooting you.
oh, okay. Ouch. And so me, am looking forward to trying to practice some deep tissue massaging.
You got to make that not
skills
only one of the skills that you want to learn a month, but that should be like a long-term thing. Like you should continue to master it throughout the year. I want to see you working as a part-time masseuse.
Maybe I can take up some clients. Nighttime gig. I got a great massage bed right behind me. Now, we both already talked about this. Read books monthly. I won't get into that. Make a friend monthly.
I like this.
Yeah, make a new friend monthly. So I guess I'll have to make a tracker for that. So we'll see where that goes.
This is like something worthy of like making like a YouTube video about, and like a series following that. And then like the end of the series, you meet up with all 12 of them.
Oh my God.
You're giving me a vision.
Wow. Time to start Coronel clips. We got this. 2022. You know, I didn't talk about this. I practically finished the Skillshare course that's about film editing. So I kind of slowed down at the end. I wasn't too interested in like watching the last few videos, but at least I know the basics. I know how to take clips from a raw footage, put it onto a timeline, add audio, change the audio, add B-roll, edit your A-roll, and add extra time or extra footage on top or whatever you want. Things like that. Put some transitions in there too. So I got some basic knowledge now. I have something to work with if I want to on my own. It's just so annoying. I don't know how you do it.
It's annoying.
doing the raw footage and getting the full like clip from like the start to the end of the film or the whatever video you're making. Just doing that in itself and not editing anything else was such a pain.
The thing that gets even more complicated is like certain cameras record footage into a different codecs. I don't want to get too much into that, but like when you run into a problem with having footage recorded in two different like codexes, it'll like destroy your whole. I've had that issue because I think like iPhones record in a very different way than most like cameras. So trying to make a video that includes like iPhone footage and other cameras can sometimes break your computer. I think
break your computer.
But I'm also speaking from like editing, like having that issue like back when I was like doing AlzateFilms like 2017. Like I think the editing softwares have like updated now where it won't like kill things. It just it gets more complicated.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. I didn't have much gratitude for it and I took it for granted. But after just practicing, only taking a class, man, it's fucking frustrating. So next one is making money off the internet in some way or form. I'm interested in just exploring different ideas of how I might be able to do that. Because going along with like getting real estate, want to at least have many other sources of income than just my 9-to-5 job. Have a serious relationship. 2021 goal. I don't know if you heard this one, and I think I may have actually said it on the series of Instagram stories that I was mentioning earlier in the podcast. Was to get married. Did you know, John?
How'd that go?
Have a wife yet.
Well, let me tell you, Josh. We have a couple days left of this year.
2021 is not over, but I do not plan on getting married before the end of the year. I could suit out some prospects, but for tax benefits, but I'll pass this year. Maybe next year. We'll see. We'll see by the end of next year if I actually get into a serious relationship or not. Learn to grow and maintain a beautiful mane across my chin. So John wants to do his beautiful fluffy mustache or whatever the fuck he called it. Bushy mustache. I have worked on my beard and it is coming along, and it's time to take it to the next level. That's all it is. That's all it is. Travel to a new country in 2022. I haven't been out of this country. If you don't know what country I'm in the United States of America, the US of A. I haven't been out of the US of A since 2000 and my God, I don't know, 5. I
Oh,
was
wow.
young.
Where'd you go?
Ages. Ecuador.
Oh, okay. We should go to Mexico.
Yeah, for those, I should. My manager today was talking to me about Cancun. He's from Mexico and he has a farm in Mexico, or his family has a farm in Mexico that makes and produces tequila. I said this in our group chat, I
Awesome.
think.
Yeah.
So he was telling me all about that. He's like, "Oh yeah, have you been to Cancun?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." He's like, "Oh, when I go, they have these like package things where you just do one payment." And I think John, you've talked about this before. You do one payment. It's like it's paying for the whole experience, all the drinks, all
Oh my
the
God,
things
yeah.
you do. He's like, well, I told the bar ones, like, oh yeah, my family's from this area of Mexico. He's like, oh, isn't that where they produce this tequila? He's like, yeah, that's my family. He's like, so they're like very interested now, of like showing him all the different tequilas and getting his opinion on it.
Oh my God.
He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh wow, that's just an incredible experience just from like where you come from.
Yeah.
A privilege you get to experience now.
Yeah, that is something we should discuss with our friends though, like going to like Mexico or like even the Dominican Republic to go to one of those like all you can eat places. No, it's called it's not all you can eat. That's that's a buffet. what is it called?
I have no clue.
There's all included. It's called all included. Where yeah, it's just like you like pay just for your like the stay, but it includes like endless food, endless drinks. Like you don't even have to leave the hotel unless you really want to.
It includes all you can eat.
Yeah.
I understand.
And the drinks.
So that was my 10th goal. I don't think I counted that off, but that was to close it off. Originally, I think I only had like 6 stats. I John put 10, so I had to compete.
Yeah, I wanted to match it with like what I had. I think last year I had 10, but then I started to add more to it. So I ended up with 12. So maybe I'll add more to this, but I like that we actually like
talked about it.
Yeah, like I actually like did it because it gave me time to really like think about it. So we are at an hour and 20 minutes. I do want to talk about the Beyond stuff.
Do we want to skip the life and work?
I think we can because I feel like some of it has kind of been covered off like in these other things. And then we can just end talking about the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Sounds good with me.
For Beyond, my first one is living in a different state, but I have like Chicago or Arizona. I do feel like these are just based on the fact that I went to these places. So I'm like I'm still like enchanted with them, but it's like there's many other places to look at.
Because that's called the availability heuristic.
Is it?
Take it fast and slow. You make your judgment of now you're saying, oh, well, what state would I want to go to? It'll be based on what's most available to your mind.
Yeah, I mean, these places were definitely the most available. But I really did like Chicago. I wish we had gone there longer. I was really like, I think even now I still think about how much I liked like the architecture and everything about it. Arizona, I mean, was a blast. I definitely like the Southwest like states. Like Utah felt very similar to Arizona, like in terms of like landscape. And I really love that. So somewhere like that I think would be pretty, but I think in terms of like work, it probably would make more sense to be like nearby, like a bigger city. So like I would have to obviously take that into consideration. I mean, I guess if work from home continues in some capacity, I might be able to like work out of the desert, but I don't know. But that's something that I think like at some point in my life I would want to experience. Just in general, falling in love, starting a family, buying a house, all that jazz. That's the American dream. White picket fence, or maybe a black picket fence.
Continue.
Start a production company is like a long-term thing that I've really been thinking about, and I've met people at work who were able to do that and have their production companies become like a part of an agency, which like seems really cool, and like it's really inspiring meeting people that have been able to do that. Work on a feature film. This is something I didn't really add, but I do want to start like on the side being a production assistant. I think it would be a good experience to actually like work on other people's stuff, because like I'm so focused on what I want to do, but I think there's a lot to gain just from like being around other people and just being like a part of the machine, not like the main like driving force of it. So I feel like there's a lot that I can gain from that. So it's definitely something I want to do. And also making my own feature film at some point. And then like the big goal is like to travel to all 50 states, really putting a lot of weight into that and thinking about where I can go next year and also like beyond. Like it's a really exciting like prospect, I think, planning that out, and it'll be a fun thing to talk about eventually. Like I went to all 50 states. And also like other countries as well.
Abraham Lincoln could say that.
Abraham Lincoln could say that. Could he?
I think he has.
And then retire, but become an educator. So that's like a big goal for me. Is like, don't know if I had this conversation with you. I think a lot about like retiring, or like the way I see like older people around me, and like I can't imagine a world without working in some kind of way. I don't want to get to a point where I just like retire and I'm not doing anything. I mean, obviously you have like families and stuff, but I still want to like contribute to the world in some way. Like I'm not the type of person who like would not want to work at all if that was like an opportunity. So like, yeah, I think a thing that I would want to do like eventually as I get older is like to be able to teach in some way, even if it's at like a high school. Maybe I have some connections with high school teachers so they can help me out with that. A big thing I would want to do too is like teach film. I think that would be really cool. So definitely want to amplify my knowledge and experience so I can actually be able to teach that.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, I love it. So my beyond goals is to get married and have 2 kids. Only 2 kids. I think that's no like more. Everyone else.
No more, no less.
No more, no less. And only 1 boy, 1 girl. Just like everyone else.
Just like you're supposed to.
I actually just aspire to be John's parents. Then this one actually probably could be in 2020, be able to add it in as one of those new skills. Play a instrument. I don't play any instrument. It would be awesome to be able to pick one up and learn. So I'll put that as a beyond goal, but maybe I'll get that started this year. Buy a house or a flat, whatever you call them, in the southeast or southwest. Southwest, I'm sorry. After visited Arizona, the houses out there are absolutely beautiful. You get a house out there, not just Arizona or Phoenix, Colorado, Utah, some of those areas with the mountains, which I didn't get the opportunity to travel through. I know John spent a lot of time in Colorado and he can tell you all about it.
Utah.
For days. The houses there would be wonderful to it just seems like a great spot to actually have a house to
even somewhere like Flagstaff, where it's like it's not like as bussin' as Phoenix, but like it's a nice little mountain town that also has like a night scene.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about the night scene though.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, I guess it would be very important now I move to a place for my kids to have a great night scene.
Yeah.
I'll be aging. I'll be getting old. Start my own successful company in any capacity. And then my last one is to travel to space and meet Elon Musk. They could only do that by traveling to space.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask, like that's like a dual thing, right? So like you're traveling to space to meet him.
Exactly.
It's like he's gonna
meet him in space. He'll already be in space.
He'll be on Mars.
Working on a project.
He'll be at Tesla HQ on Mars.
Exactly. He'll just be in the office. So I might be able to get him for an interview. However, I'll meet him in Mars or on an asteroid sometime, someplace.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So those are my life goals. Well, let's close off.
Yeah.
We're running late.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Ooh, Bella just came in. I'll bring her out. Do you want to say some words?
Yes, we have big news. Should I say it?
I'll say it.
Yeah, go for it.
This is our last episode. Did you hear that correctly? So the way that I'm viewing it is the last episode of this season. When I have been uploading the episodes onto YouTube and even on Spotify and everything, it's like season 1. So this is the end of season 1 of We Should Talk More. It's been an amazing ride. We are gonna take an extended hiatus with no plans on bringing it back yet. Through our conversations, though, we're not necessarily saying that we won't ever come back. So yeah, I am viewing it more as just like closing this chapter of it. And if we want to come back, it's very easy to do so. We have all the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I will, for clarity for everyone, it was a decision mostly driven by me, just not really wanting to continue doing it. I think it's something I've been struggling with not finding value in like speaking or like not enjoying being the center of something and talking, which is like, I do acknowledge it's like part of the anxiety. So it is something I would hope to work on. And me and Josh are friends outside of this podcast. So as things continue, like it is a thing that we could very easily come back to do. And I look forward to coming back in some capacity as time goes on. But I think for now, this will be the last episode for a little while. And I'll pass it over to Josh.
Yeah, no, that was a beautiful way to put it. And I'm like in total agreement with like the way that you phrased it. So I am like totally grateful for the opportunity that we had here. And I think that's where I feel like there was so much conflict with being able to make this decision, because we are very aware of like the positive impact it has on our life. But to be able to produce podcasts weekly does take a toll on our life too, I think. I'm happy that John was able to come as he did to mention this to me. I guess maybe I'm not supposed to be saying this, but he said it like 2 months ago.
Oh yeah.
So
I was gonna say
we've been filming
mention,
podcasts without telling everyone around us that we're not going to continue filming podcasts going forward.
That's kind of been hard, I will say, because we, at least like our close friends, like asking about like things that we're gonna do or like giving us ideas. Still, we're like, we already knew that this would be the end of it.
We've known for quite some time, and I just want to say thank you, John, for that, for like not like holding it off, because I know it was eating at you for a while, and for you to be able to have it in yourself to actually set that like time, a commitment for a couple more months, and a time of like, okay, this is a good place where I think we can close the door and have it there for us to open it anytime we want to. So it's tough to like think, well, we put in so much work for it, like to stop it is awful, but at the same time, like we both gained so much value out of it. And I feel like now like there is like a lot less stress on our shoulders having to think about having to do this each week. And there's definitely a lot more to my friendship with John than this podcast. So I feel like part of this podcast has also made it that the only thing that is making us hang out now is because of this podcast. I think we hang out less because of this podcast.
Yeah, which is I think part of the thing that has made it like a hard thing. Like it's definitely like, I mean, there's been other things going on that have prevented us from hanging out, but I think like having the most of it being like through this, it has definitely
through a podcast
put like a strain on it. And I know we've both like we've talked about it, but we're both like eager to like get back to like just hanging out and like going on like boy dates and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's fun to hang out with you, but when it's just the podcast that we do each week, it becomes more of a duty or a task sometimes. But when we are, I think this is why it's difficult, is because when you think about it, it becomes something that you have to get done. When you're actually filming a podcast, and we both share this, and I think most podcasters will share this, you enjoy the hour to 2 hours of the actual conversation.
Yeah.
That part of it's a lot of fun. But once you leave, you have to edit the content, you have to prepare and plan for the next episode, and that's all within the next week. And then the social media content to put together. So now you're thinking, well, do I have all my thoughts together for this next episode? Am I ready to talk into a microphone for an hour and a half? I think for me personally, that kind of bothered me too. Just having that at the back of my mind, oh, well, Tuesday I have to do another episode. And it kind of like conflicts with any other priorities I can put in my life.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's definitely like not something that I didn't like right now. That this is still like I enjoy, because it's like we're just talking, so like that hasn't changed. And we've definitely like spoken about that, where like the best part is like when you're doing it, like everything else surrounding it is like what ends up being like the drag. So yeah, I mean, I definitely want to give like closure if there's people who are watching this and might be upset. You know, there is no like bad blood between Josh and I. And also we definitely appreciate everybody who's been watching, and especially like our close friends who continue to watch and like give us their feedback or just let us know that they're watching it. And like we have like Sam and Arjav, every time an episode comes out, they're messaging in our group chat that there's a new episode. So stuff like that doesn't go unnoticed, and it also definitely makes like decisions like this harder, because it's like you don't want to let people down in that way. But yeah, I think you put it perfectly. Like the things surrounding it, I think especially for me it's definitely been like harder. And I think I started to realize it too when we were making plans for like finding an editor. I felt bad because I didn't want to bring someone else in, and then if I still had that feeling of not wanting to do it, I didn't want to let them down either. I will add though, I'm glad that we were able to do like what we had planned out. That really came from you. Like I know like I'm the one that said like, oh, we should finish it, but like I feel like thinking of how you would handle a situation like that and like being friends with you, I know it's something that you would want to do. Like if we had planned out this work, let's finish what we planned out. So like I didn't want to let that work go to waste, because like when we made the decision, we planned up to this episode. So I'm glad that we did what we planned to do. So in that way, we succeeded with what we had planned out for this year. So it's definitely a thing to be proud of.
Did that come through?
A little bit.
Yeah, no, I feel like we're accomplished with that. There's a lot of episodes we wrote down on a planner to go through. What episode is this now? Episode like 30, 40?
This is 31.
31 episodes. You see podcasts out there with like 100 to 500 episodes. Doing 30 episodes was quite a commitment. And I'm very happy that we did. And that was mostly from like our large list of items that we said, hey, look, these are interesting topics to us. Let's go through them and see what we can make of them. And at the time of writing many of those items down, we didn't really have any thoughts put together for them.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to see that like those episodes came together and now they're out there. They're out there on the internet for anyone to go ahead and listen to, and for people to be able to come to me or John to mention an episode. Those small things are just so great to hear. And so that, I mean, when I get the chance, like I'll give those shout outs. John saying Sam and our job every Wednesday 10 a.m. they message us. My friend Dahlia, she mentions, oh, I'm listening to a podcast in the shower and then I hear you drop my name about some random stuff that I didn't want you to share, and how embarrassing that is. I hate you.
It's my mom.
Like that's
listening
like,
and,
to your
and
mom.
finding out that I have a tattoo.
You getting punished. You mentioned like some friends of yours mentioned, oh, we haven't had too much of a connection, but I feel like I know you and Josh so much better than you know me, and it's such a one-way relationship. I feel like I'm able to share with you guys because of the podcast you put together, and that goes to anyone. Like,
that was
like, that
was friend of the show Amanda.
Content. Say it again.
It was friend of the show Amanda who said that.
Friend of the show Amanda. I got the pleasure of meeting her too when we went on our trip to Chicago, where she's based out of. Any other shout outs we should give to close off?
Man,
and if we're missing any shout outs, like
Alex, I mean, Alex, I know listens. Erin, I know has mentioned that she's listened to some episodes. Both friends of the show. Yeah.
Alex Lago has mentioned it too. I was on a date at a diner once, and then I ran into him, and he's then telling me about a podcast that both him and his girlfriend Katie were listening to. So there's that too. Shout out Alex Lago. Haven't seen you in a minute, but you're still in my heart.
Yeah, same.
Kelly, friend of Piyush. I remember early on when we started this podcast, he was listening to a few episodes, and he listened to one of me getting fired. He also listened to like one of the first episodes with Piyush. So shout out Piyush too. He's like, "Oh, Josh, your voice is sounds so soothing when I'm listening to this podcast." I'm like, I don't see my voice in that way. He's like, no, I'm telling you, I am a audio producer. He's not an audio producer. He does singing. He does music production a little bit on the side as like his fun hobby. He's like, oh no, Josh, I know when I hear it. I'm like, if you say so, I appreciate the compliments. So there was him, and he also talked to me about the Get It Fired episode, and like he really had like the spark notes ready with that episode too. He came to me, he's like, you know, you mentioned this and you mentioned that, and here's my thoughts about it. And like I was curious, I wanted to ask these, this and that. I'm like, you know, we're out here having drinks. I'm surprised that you're so prepared to have a conversation about that like blew me off my feet. When like someone's to come to me with such specifics of a podcast that we did. I love that. And we cannot forget Sean Cassie or whoever it was from London who left us a review.
Oh yeah, he left us a review on Apple that ended up being our job.
Exactly that one.
Yeah, we have a lot of fond memories. I think it's definitely something I'll look back on very fondly. When you think of how long we've been doing it too, it's encompassed a lot of our year, and there's so much that has happened since we started it to now that we're ending it. That is like so beautiful, like looking back at it. I will say a big highlight is going to the Podcast But Outside show and pitching our podcast to them and just like awkwardly sitting there with him and getting a photo. That was great.
Yeah, no, I'm happy I was able to share that experience with you. All right.
Yeah.
Well, there's their podcast. I
Well,
mean, if we forgot to like shout out anyone, feel free to get mad at me, but you're not forgotten.
Yeah.
You're not forgotten. We're closing the year. We're closing this podcast, and cheers to 2022.
Let's go. I'm starting the song, the goodbye music. I wish you could hear it as loud as I hear it because it's so beautiful to hear.
It's nostalgic. It
nostalgic.
will be nostalgic.
It'll always be a tune that I'll have in the back of my head. Thanks again for watching or listening, guys. Like we mentioned, we'll be going on a extended break. But happy to have you here if you've been listening from the very beginning. If you started listening at any random point, happy to see that you listened to like 2 or 3 episodes and then found out that it's not continuing. I've been your co-host, John Alzate, the professor at Harvard.
And hi, great seeing you. I'm Josh Cornell. Find me on joshcornell.com as Should Talk More is no longer active in effect.
You can find me.
We still got the domain.
You can find me at AlzateFilms. That's the only account that matters. Everywhere you want to look me up, I'm available. Hire me.
If you do want to listen to old episodes and not tune in for episodes to come, shouldtalkmore.com has all our past episodes that you can stream on all the major streaming platforms. So do check that out and check out our social medias. We might still continue to post, and if you want to stay up to date as to if we were to open up a season 2, reopen up the door for season 2 rather, you'll find out there.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's just smile and look at the camera so I have a thumbnail.
Happy New Year's, Happy Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and
bye.
God bless your soul.
Okay.